Welcome to our Financial Wellness Bootcamp. I'm Matt Michelson, here to guide you through this boot camp. I'm your local financial professional here in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area. I believe that financial strategies that are used by the wealthy should be available to everyone. Our goal here is to help people enjoy life to the fullest without having to worry about money. We want to help you eliminate financial stress by providing you education, tools, personal financial reviews, and a financial plan that's tailored just for you. So you're here because you want to move yourself to a better place financially. Your current efforts and your past efforts and habits have done great things for you to get you to where you are right now. But if you want to get to a new place, you're going to need new habits. So this course will help you achieve that. So during the boot camp, each of the lessons, you're going to want to have a pen and paper handy or another app window to take notes in. You're going to want to keep these notes because we're going to be referring back to them in future lessons. Also, taking notes help you stay engaged with the content, keeps you from tuning out or getting distracted by other things in your environment, especially if you're doing this from home. Might cause you to miss out on some really key points that we're going to build on even later. So you don't want to miss anything here. You'll also be taking notes on your own progress. So as we go throughout this course and progress through the topics, you're going to be seeing changes in your financial life, changes for the better. And you're going to want to measure that progress to show where you start out today and compare it to where you are 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 weeks from now. We help you overcome the challenges and financial challenges and help you build better financial skills. So on your notepad, whether it's paper or electronic, at the top and numbering down at the left, down the left-hand column, number 1 through 5. And we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll show you what to fill in those 5 lines here shortly. So the structure of the boot camp really is covering 3 different time periods. Today, or your current situation, tomorrow, or what could be coming next week or next month, and then the far future, the distant future. For some people, it's distant, and that's retirement. What comes when you're done working and you want to just sit on the beach and have fun the rest of your life. So as we're putting this plan together, or we're going through this journey together, I want you to actually take a step back and look backwards in time, all the way back to when you were in kindergarten. So you may not remember kindergarten very much, but most likely you had kindergarten class. And you went through, starting in kindergarten, all the way through your senior year of high school, and for most people here, probably even additional 4 to 6, even 8 years of college. So everybody here has gone to school somewhere between 12 and 20 years, probably 16 to 20 years of school. Why did you go to school? To learn how to get a job so you could make money. So you went to school to learn how to make money, essentially. But how much of that time that you spent in school, of all of those years, how much time did you actually spend learning how to manage the money that you're going to earn someday? Maybe hours, days, weeks, if you're lucky, maybe a few months if you majored in finance in school. So unless you specifically studied finance in college, you probably took no more than 1 class on managing money, or 1 chapter in a class. So even for that education that you got, that little education that you got, think to yourself, how well did that prepare me for real life? And if you're like most people, you'll be able to answer, or you'll have to answer, it didn't really prepare you well. So now that you're graduated several years down the road and you've had a lot of life experience with money and realized that a lot of those lessons you learned don't even really apply to the real world, doesn't it make sense that you spend a little bit of time re-educating yourself on how money really works in the real world? So over the next several weeks, you're only going to get 12 hours. But those 12 hours are going to pack with information that's going to be very helpful to you, extremely helpful, and can set you on a totally better path for your financial future. So to make sure that those 12 hours is time well spent, we will make sure that we're providing excellent information for you, so that you can get on track and stay on track financially. Okay, so the success promise. There's 4 things that you're going to need to succeed in this class, and we'll come back to this several times. But the first is you need to know, you need to have knowledge. You need to know what to do with your actions, your money, your, whatever. What you just need to have a formula of what to do. Think of it as a compass. You need to be able to read a compass, to have that knowledge so that you can follow where that compass is telling you to go. You need to have skills. You need to know, okay, now I know what to do. Now I have to have the ability to do it. So skills is another thing that you need to have that we're going to help you develop here during this course. You also have to have the desire. You have to have your brain move your body to move you in the right direction. So if you know what to do and how to do it, but you have no desire, you're never going to get where you want to go. And then there's the opportunity. So it's knowing when to move, knowing when to take the right, make the right moves to move in the right direction. So this course is opening a door of opportunity for you. It's opening a door of opportunity for you to learn and take new actions and new direction for your financial future. So the opportunity is now. You just have to bring the desire. So as you bring the desire, then that brings that element in, and we can move you to a successful place. So during this course, we have a promise to you that we're going to greatly increase your access to financial knowledge and financial skills. And for a lot of people, we found during this course, you can save them up to, as much as $100 per week, or even a lot more, especially as we get closer and closer to the end and all these lessons are compounding and building. $100 is easily how much people are going to save week to week and month to month. So we're going to review some challenges here. I'm going to start out with the first one. Before I do, we're going to go through several challenges, and these challenges are going to help you overcome and learn to manage your money so you can overcome these challenges yourself. Well, let's kind of set the stage really quick. First challenge, financial challenge that all of us deal with, is cost of living, or income versus the cost of living. So cost of living, it's the amount of money that you need to maintain your current lifestyle. Pretty simple concept. If you look at this chart on the right, you see different age groups. People under age 25, age 25 to 34, 35 to 44, and so on, to older people over age 75. You see that incomes in the green bar tend to rise as people get older and they get into their peak learning years. Peak earning years. The peak earning years are somewhere between 35, 45, 55 years old. It's when people tend to be making the most money. And then as people retire or they start scaling back on work, their incomes come down. You'll also see a rise, a similar rise and fall in living expenses based on people's ages. So in the beginning of, as you're very young, before you bought a house or anything else, your living expenses are relatively low, and they go up. And over time, as you hit middle age and you're buying cars and clothes for your kids and food for your kids and braces for your kids and, home and all those kind of things, you get into those peak spending years. And then that tends to trail off as you downsize your home and you retire and you're not buying as many things as you used to. So what is your own situation? Find your own age bracket on this chart and ask yourself, what is my income? Hopefully most of you know that already, but what is my living expenses? What is the cost of my current lifestyle? A lot of people, unfortunately, don't know that. Now, a couple of interesting statistics. In 6 states in the United States, the average income for citizens in that state are less than or below the cost of living, meaning that the average person is underwater financially every single month. There are 12 states where that gap between the green bar and the red bar, where income and living expenses, when you compare, the income is just a little bit over the living expenses, so within 10%. So people who live in those states don't really have an opportunity. They may not be underwater every month, but they may not have an opportunity to save much because they're not able to put very much money away because of their cost of living. In only 4 states, out of all 50 states in the United States, only 4 states have more than a 25% gap where income is more than 25% higher than living expenses. So people in those states should be able to save a lot of money every month. Those 4 states, by the way, are New Jersey, Maryland, Utah, and Alaska. So if you're considering moving to a place where you can have relatively high income compared to your cost of living, those are 4 places to consider. So with that piece of paper, that notepad that you have, we're gonna challenge you to ask yourself a question here and rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. So on a scale of 1 to 10, ask yourself, how well does my income provide for my desired standard of living? 1 would be not at all, or very low probability. 10 would be it provides extremely well, or highly likely. Fill in a number there on that line, and we're going to move to challenge number 2. Second big financial challenge for all of us that we all face is debt. As you can see here, we have in this chart here on the left, you see a very similar trend that we saw with incomes and cost of living. As people start out young, they have relatively little debt. As they get older, they buy a house on credit, maybe vehicles on credit, school loans. That debt increases dramatically. And then as people get older and they have higher incomes and are able to pay down some of that debt starts to reduce over time. Now, you'll see here in between ages 35, 45, 54, these people have on average around $130,000 in debt. That's quite a bit, considering that's a lot of that is mortgage, but there's a lot of other debts that are in there as well. One of the fastest growing debts is student loan debt. And it usually takes people an average of 21 years to pay that off. So that's increasing these bars also. So the second self-reflection question that I want to ask you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident am I that my current income can cover my monthly debts after my living expenses are paid off? So from the prior slide, the cost of living, how confident am I that I'm able to pay my debts every month on top of what I'm already spending just for maintaining my lifestyle? 1 would be totally uncertain, and 10 would be highly confident. Challenge number 3, financial challenge number 3 that we all face is taxes. So the average income tax paid by people of different age groups. Find your age group on this list here in the chart on the left. Under age 25, as incomes are lower, people pay less tax. People who are under the age of 25 tend to make less money, and so they tend to pay less tax, so 16% average. As people get older and start making more money, they start to pay more in taxes. So age 26 to 35, people in that age bracket usually pay around, on average, 24% income tax. As you get into middle age and you start earning more money, your taxes go up also, average 26%, 27%. And then as people retire and they start to make less money, their income goes down, their taxable income goes down, they're paying less in taxes. Although, as you can see here, it doesn't drop off very far. What's happening is as people quit their jobs and retire, they're now drawing on 401ks and other taxable retirement accounts. And because those are taxable retirement accounts, they're being charged income tax on that money. So when people think, oh, I've got all this money in my 401k, and they go to pull it out, they don't realize that they're still going to be giving up on average 25% of every dollar that they're taking out of their retirement accounts. It's a very sobering statistic there. Now, looking at this chart on the right, what's going to be happening to taxes in the future? Nobody knows for sure, but we can look to some history to kind of give us an idea of what's coming. So this red bar that we see in the chart is the amount of debt that our country has as a percentage of gross domestic product, GDP. What GDP is, it's the value of all goods and services produced in our entire economy in a given year. So if our GDP is, trillion, certain number of dollars, and we take on more debt, as the debt grows in relative to our GDP, you're going to see this red bar rise. Now, taxes, they change depending on economic events and which party holds political power. So, whether it's increased social services from one party or increased military spending from another party, that debt will go up because of the spending of either of those parties. Now, there's also certain events that happen in history that require more debt. So this example here, you see this red bar spikes somewhere around 1941. Well, you may recall from history, 1941 is when Pearl Harbor was invaded and we jumped into World War II. So we had to buy a lot of planes, tanks, boats, pay a lot of soldiers to go to war. And that spiked our national debt hugely compared to the GDP, the value of goods and services that we were producing that year. So as the debt goes up and it spikes, tax rates had to go up along with it in order to pay down that debt and bring that debt back to manageable levels. Eventually, as the debt came down, the tax rates were also able to come down so we could maintain a good balance there. But you see somewhere around 2008, you see this imbalance happening where these curves are not following each other anymore. And this is a major divergence that we're seeing. So around 2008, you may recall that was when the Great Recession hit us. And when the Great Recession hit, our debt went up drastically. And it's actually this red line, if we continued it on another 4 years to include today, this red line would be much, much higher. Now, at the same time, our tax rates have actually stayed relatively low. And so we have this phenomenon happening where our debt's going up and our taxes are staying relatively low. Well, eventually something's got to give. And chances are pretty good. What that means is taxes are more likely than not to go up in the future. Now, again, nobody can guarantee that, but the likelihood of that happening is extremely high. So self-reflection question number 3 is, am I able to take steps now to minimize my tax burden in the future? 1 on the scale of 1 to 10 would be 1 is I'm totally uncertain of how I can minimize my tax burden in the future, and 10 is I'm highly confident that I'll be able to minimize that in the future. Challenge number 4 is savings and retirement. How do we build our savings and have funds available to retire on? If you talk to any financial planner or financial advisor who knows anything about retirement, they'll usually be able to tell you about the 3-legged stool. That's what they call it. The 3-legged stool consists of personal savings, how much money you've saved up, have stored away, Social Security, so that's money that's going to be provided by the government that you've been paying into most of your working life, and then company pensions. Now, pensions you can also consider include 401ks and other types of retirement accounts because there aren't a lot of pensions out there anymore. So we have these 3 legs on this stool. Any one of those legs goes away and the stool collapses or falls over. And you can see from this picture that those legs are not in good shape. The entire stool is cracking and falling apart. And I'll tell you why here in just a second. These charts may not show you much, but when we put all the information together for you, you're going to see why this stool is falling apart. So let's look at these ages on the left side of the chart. Again, we have the age brackets, and find your place on this age bracket on this chart. If you're between the ages of 65 to 74, you're more likely than not to have the highest average account balance of any other age group. That's because you've had the most time to accumulate money and set it aside for use later. And in retirement, as you use that money, your balances start to come down because you're spending that money to live on. So the average retiree, the person at retirement, is $55,000 in savings. Okay, sounds all right, I guess. $55,000. Now, 401k, let's look at what the average 401k balance is by age group. Looking down here at the bottom at these age groups, age 20, 29, age 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. somewhere around retirement age, this chart, this line peaks. Again, you would expect that to happen. These are people who have had the most time to build up values in their accounts before they start drawing money out. Right at that peak when they retire is where that peak should be. And that's where it is. And the average 401k balance for a person in the 60 to 69 age group is $170,000. So we have $55,000 in savings, and we have $170,000 in 401k. Combine those two together, you have $225,000. That's a $225,000 nest egg, we'll call it, to live off of in retirement. Now, Social Security. The average Social Security payment is $1,500. So now you've got $1,500 a month, plus you've got $225,000 in your retirement accounts. How long will that money last you in retirement? If let's say you're living on $10,000 a month right now in your daily lifestyle. So if you want to continue doing that in retirement and live on this savings and 401k and your Social Security, your money will last you exactly 2 years and 1 month. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want my money to retire only 2 years into retirement, especially if I retire at age 65, and on average, average American lives somewhere between 80 and 85 years old, depending if you're a man or a woman. So you're going to be in retirement for 20 years, but you're only going to have money for 2 of those years. That doesn't sound like a good plan. So let's say, okay, I can cut back in retirement, and instead of living on $10,000 a month, I'll only live on $7,000 a month. So how much does that stretch my money out? Well, that stretches your money out to 3 years and 5 months. So it's not even double what it was with the 10 years. Okay, let's say, all right, I'm gonna really cut back when I retire. I'm not gonna travel. I'm gonna live on, dog food. I'm gonna live on $5,000 a month in retirement. Well, that retirement money that you have, that the average American has at that age, retirement age, is going to last 5 years and 4 months. So you can see that there's a big challenge here with most Americans facing a daunting retirement challenge with not having enough money to get them through between the time they retire and the time they pass away. Consider also state pensions. So when a state has workers who retire and they have to pay a fixed amount to those workers for the rest of their lives, they have money set aside to cover that debt or that obligation to their retirees. 8 states out of the 50 have more than 90% of the money they need to fund those pensions set aside to pay those people. So they get a grade of an A, just like in school. 17 out of the 50 states get a B or a C, meaning they've only got between 70 and 90% of the money they owe to their retirees. And if you happen to be one of those people in one of those states, a grade of a C, they only have 70% of the money set aside to pay you. That gets a little scary. Well, also this statistic, 25%, this is half of the states in our country get a D or an F, meaning somewhere between the worst state was Illinois, it was 43%. And so states somewhere between 43 and under 70% get a D or an F in how well they've funded their pensions. So there's the pension, that's why you see the pension leg of that stool is beginning to crumble, because there's a lot of states that are not able to pay those pensions. Also consider Social Security. If it doesn't change course and based on how much money is coming into Social Security and how fast money is going out, Social Security funds will be 100% depleted by the year 2035. So again, these funds that we're hoping come back to us from our federal government and our state governments are not in good shape. So ask yourself this self-reflection question, number 4. How confident am I that my savings will be enough for retirement? So 1 is totally uncertain and 10 is highly confident. Challenge number 5 is an unexpected loss of income. So for most married couples, or you have, you know, a husband and wife, they've got a couple kids on average. You've got a car to pay for, a home to pay for. You've just got all these financial obligations. But it's also just, it's not just financial obligations, but it's just the day-to-day work and upkeep of all of these things. Now, if you remove one income from that picture, even for a short amount of time, let's say the husband gets injured, or, you know, heaven forbid, the, you know, the primary wage earner, husband or wife, dies, and their income completely goes away, that leaves the entire financial and physical burden on the other person, on the other spouse. So now what's likely to happen if one income goes away? Everything falls. All those obligations come crashing down. That's a daunting challenge for a lot of people to face. Only around 50% of Americans actually have life insurance to be able to cover this kind of a financial hardship if something like that happens. A lot of people rely on, you know, oh, they think I'll just use my money that's stashed away in my 401k. If I have an emergency, I'll draw that out. What they don't realize is when they pull that money early out of their 401k, they're taxed on it immediately. And if you're in a 30% tax bracket, you right off the bat lose 30% of that money to taxes. Then there's also a 10% penalty for withdrawing that early. Now that penalty has been temporarily put on hold because of our current financial situation, but it's most likely to be reinstated fairly soon. You lose another 10%. So having to rely on your retirement accounts to help you in the event of some financial loss or some loss of some income, not a recommended approach. There are things you can do about this, but let's just say that this is a big challenge for a lot of people. So rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. How confident am I that I can handle a financial emergency such as a loss of income? 1 would be totally uncertain, and 10 would be highly confident. So we looked at the difficulty side of the financial coin. Let's look at the positive side. So financial wellness, what does that look like? PricewaterhouseCoopers, a major consulting company, recently did a study asking thousands of people, what does financial wellness mean to you? And the responses came back in about 6 categories. The biggest response category was, you know, people basically shared not being stressed about my finances. 18% said being debt-free. 16% said having rainy day funds so that, you know, we have enough savings for unexpected expenses. Another 16% said financial freedom, financial independence. 12% said being able to pay for everyday expenses, not having to worry about their bills. 4% said retire on their own terms. So what does financial wellness mean to you? It's going to mean something slightly different to everybody. Is it something that's on this list, or is it something else? You may want to make a note to yourself of what financial wellness feels like to you. We feel that financial wellness is certainty. So a mental state of being without doubt, having confidence and assurance, not just in the here and now, but in the future. So what does financial wellness feel like? There's actually been a lot of studies done. We can tell you exactly what it feels like. So a recent study was done in the Journal of Science and Medicine that linked financial stresses to migraines, cardiovascular disease, work absences, insomnia, different mental health conditions like depression and other mood disorders. So in other words, it physically hurts you to be economically insecure. So the findings basically suggest that your physical and your mental health directly benefit you from having healthy finances. It doesn't just have, it's not just health for your financial future, but it's health for your body and mind. It helps your self-esteem. So 6 German economists and psychologists, they conducted a study of 130 very wealthy individuals, and they derived a psychological profile of how does a wealthy person think? How does their mind work? They found that wealthy people, compared to the rest of the population, are more conscientious, they're more emotionally stable, more extroverted, more assertive, they're more open to new experiences than most other people. Relationships. So some of this stuff seems obvious, but it's actually been scientifically proven that people, a much greater number of people find wealthy people attractive than those with less money. Okay, that makes sense. We've had a lot of people come and go through our courses here, and I don't have any statistics or studies other than we've gotten so many good notes back from people sharing their positive experiences. And I'll just share one of those with you about a man talking about how money, his improved money mindset, has actually helped his marriage. So he says, before the class, I faced difficulty with my personal finances and not being able to save. Every unplanned expense would put us in a crisis. After the class, I smile now more, and my relationship with my spouse is much happier. We still have debts, but we now know what to do about them. My family's keeping and following a budget, and the constant stress is gone. So if that doesn't sound like financial wellness, I don't know what is. He's not a millionaire, but he sounds like he's doing very well. He has wellness within his financial life. Money, financial wellness can lead to greater health and a longer life. Wealthy people average 10 healthier years than people who are not wealthy, and they live 10 to 15 years longer, depending on if they're a man or a woman. So all of these things combined, this is really what financial wellness feels like. So you may have heard, money can't buy happiness. Well, it can't buy you happiness, but it can buy you choices. And it's what you do with those choices that makes you happy. So if you like chocolate, if that makes you happy, well, money can buy you some chocolate, and it can buy you some happiness, or tacos, depending on which you prefer. So put a number 6 down below the 5 that you had already, and rate your own overall financial wellness. As you look at the previous responses and you see the numbers, if you're on the lower end of the range, perhaps your financial wellness is also at the lower end of the range. If you're at the higher end of the range on the previous answers, perhaps your financial wellness is on the higher end. But also compare it not just to those numbers earlier, but compare it to the feelings and the sense that you get from these other attributes: lower stress, lower anxiety, higher self-esteem. Those are important factors to consider as well. So 3 components of success. We talked earlier about some of these. We're going to help you through this course refocus your habits, or what you do. We're also going to teach you, give you some more knowledge, so gain know-how. And then we're also going to help you create a plan so that you know where you're going. So you know what to do, you know how to get there, and you know what to do along the way. So financial planning is how that all comes together. So we're going to help you create a financial map that outlines your current money situation, so where you're starting out now, your future financial goals, so where you're headed, and then strategies to achieve those goals. So how to get from where you are now to where you want to be. You need all 3 of those elements for a good plan to come together. You can do it by yourself. You can do it with a financial professional. There's lots of different ways this can be done. I want to make an important note though here, call something out, that there's a lot of financial gurus out there who claim to have all the answers, and they tout a one-size-fits-all approach to managing money, and it works out for some people, which is why they got to the status, these gurus got to the status they're at. They got their plan to work for enough people that it made them popular. But what they also don't say is that those plans don't work for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, even though they may tout that. So think about this. If you went to see a doctor and she walked in without asking you any questions and handed you a prescription, how much would you trust that doctor? Well, I would hope that you wouldn't, because who knows if that medicine is going to help whatever your condition is. If she knows nothing about that, doesn't sound like it's a great doctor. Why would you do the same thing with your money, your hard-earned money? Without having a plan, it can be very complicated. So over the following 11 lessons, we're going to touch on each one of these terms that you see here. You may be familiar with some of these, you may not be. But we're going to help you create a plan that you can trust, because it's tailored to your specific needs. Again, where you are now and where you want to go. So why should you even bother putting a plan together in the first place? So people who plan tend to have a more money aware mindset. They tend to be more woke with their money. This leads to better money habits overall. So comparing planners and non-planners, we see that planners pay their bills and they're able to pay their bills and save money each month way better than non-planners. 78% of planners versus only 38% of non-planners. That's more than double. Of planners, have 68% have an emergency fund, and only 26% of non-planners have emergency money set aside. Awares of fees and investment costs. These are, we call them money leaks, and we're going to go over in lesson 4 how to get rid of money leaks. Planners, 3 out of 4 planners, almost 3 out of 4, are aware of those money leaks and know how to do something about them. And less than half of non-planners know the same thing. So let's shift gears for a second. And why Walio? Why our group? Why us? Why are you know, what qualifies us to be talking about this? Why should you listen to us? Well, there's years of experience on our team. So it's not just me, it's not just one person, you know, and one perspective. We have different experts in different specialties along the way. Matt, Jordan, Bill, Yulia. We also have behind the scenes many more people. So it's not just the people who are presenting to you, but it's other people behind the scenes that all have their specialties as well. We're also backed by Fortune 50 companies in terms of just the knowledge and access to resources that they have as well. So we can help you build a financial plan that's specific for you and guide you along the way to your destination. We've been there ourselves and we know how to get there. We can also empower you with tools, automated tools like you see here that you can carry on your phone, who will do a lot of this work for you. So you don't have to think about it as much. So shifting gears again, New Year's resolutions. If we're going to change our habits, if we're going to change our destination and where we're going, we want to change our results. We've got to resolve to do something differently. So New Year's, this happens a lot around New Year's. It's a time of optimism, people making promises. You know, you make promises to yourself and you recommit to living a better life. So Nielsen Ratings did a survey of thousands of people and interviewed them and asked them around New Year's about their New Year's resolutions. Now, 16% of people interviewed said, I'm not making a New Year's resolution. I never do. So that leaves 84% of people who did make a resolution. And here's what that looks like. 37% said they wanted to stay fit and healthy. People wanted to lose weight. They wanted to enjoy life to the fullest. They wanted to spend less money and save more money. So financial goal there. They wanted to spend more time with family and friends, get organized, learn something new or pick up a new hobby. They wanted to travel more, read more. So of those people who made New Year's resolutions, interesting follow-up to this interview was 77% of people who made the New Year's resolution had kept them 1 week later. So almost a quarter of people stopped doing their resolution within the first week. 2 years later, 81% of people had not kept that resolution. So only 19% of people actually made a permanent change to their lifestyle because of the resolution that they had made. Now I want to hone in on this one resolution a little bit. Enjoy life to the fullest. I want to hone in on this one in particular because it actually encompasses so many of these other things. You may not be obvious at face value, but every one of these resolutions has something to do with money or time. We'll talk about this here in a second. So enjoy life to the fullest is everything else culminates in that one resolution. Think about spending less money, saving more money. 25% of people wanted to do that. That's clearly a money goal. Getting organized, you know, organizing their life, organizing their schedule, organizing their closet. I don't know what that means specifically. That wasn't part of the study. But chances are, if people, you know, it'll take them a little bit more time, maybe a little bit more money to get their life organized. Traveling more usually involves time and money. Learning something new or picking up a new hobby definitely requires time, sometimes, oftentimes, additional money, a cost associated. Spending more time with family and friends, taking time off work, again, that's going to impact somebody's finances or income, and they'll need time and freedom to do that. So again, all of these things have an element of time and money associated with them. Let's look at two families, family A and family B, starting out with the exact same conditions. Both of these families have goals and resolutions they want to have. Both want to live a happy life, but they both take very different approaches to achieving that financial happiness that they want to have in their lives. So we're going to compare these two and show you how they start out in exactly the same place and how they end up in very, very different places based on decisions that they make, financial decisions they make along the way. So both the Joneses and the Smiths have husband and wife. Their household income, $80,000. So they start out with the same income. They're all starting out at the same age, 27 years old. They went to the same college, born in the same, grew up in the same neighborhood. They each have one newborn child. They both come from the similar financial backgrounds, blue collar, working parents, and the parents are comfortably retired. So the parents are not financially dependent on the kids. That's an important note as well. The Joneses and the Smiths, neither one of them have much savings or debt, any savings or debt to speak of, because again, they're just starting out financially. However, here's where things start to get a little different. The Joneses like expensive toys, nice cars, nice stuff. The Smiths, they like to travel, but they also want to set aside some money for the future. Also, this leads the Joneses to not have a financial plan. They just want to live life to the fullest and consume what they can while they have the ability to. They don't budget, they just spend when the money comes in. They're impulsive with their spending. They ignore their money leaks. So there's money that they may be losing, they're just not paying attention. They use credit cards because, hey, that's other people's money. We can use their money and have fun with that now too. Oftentimes they spend their entire paycheck and then more. And their attitude towards saving is we'll save later when we earn more money. And right now, in the here and now, they're very happy. The Smiths have a very different approach. They do have a financial plan. And because of that plan, they know how they're going to be able to live a long, balanced life in terms of balancing out their finances today so they can have balanced finances 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now. They have a growth mindset with their money. They want their money to grow and work for them so they don't have to work so hard. They are consistent in their budgeting. They plan ahead for large expenses. They eliminate their money leaks so they're not losing money unnecessarily. If they use credit cards at all, they pay it off every month in full, and they earn points and cash back, which helps actually pay for stuff that they don't have to pay for with their own money because it's being paid for by the credit card company. So the Joneses pay money to the credit card company, and the credit card companies pay money to the Smiths. So it's very different there. The Smiths always spend less than they earn, and they always put away 10% or more in savings of their income. They're also happy and positive and upbeat about life. So let's fast forward 20 years and see where these families are in the next chapter of their lives. So around middle age, the Joneses, they're not homeowners, they're still renting. Their child, who was a newborn 20 years ago, has now gone to college and has lots of student loans, so tens of thousands of dollars in debt. The Joneses are just starting to save for retirement, and they've got to play catch up because they don't have too many more years before retirement. They don't have any home equity because they're not homeowners. They don't have enough money in an emergency fund to cover a $500 expense. Their financial stress is high as a result of that, and they worry about their future. They can't afford to travel because every dollar they make, they need to go towards catching up on their savings. And money, frankly, is a source of stress and blame within their relationship. Smiths, on the other hand, they are homeowners. Their children's education has already been paid off. They didn't have to take out student loans. They're $250,000 set aside for retirement, and they're on track for earning the amount of money they need to have to be able to retire comfortably. Their home equity, over $150,000 in home equity and growing. They have enough emergency savings to cover 6 months of their expenses, so they can weather a financial hardship very well. They don't have money stress as a result of having all of these things in place. They're very confident in their future, and they're able along the way to still travel and do the things they love to do, even 20 years later. They have, as a result, they don't have the same conflicts in their marriage. So in their financial lives are very peaceful, and they're very complementary to each other. Now let's fast forward another 20 years and see where these families are. So at age 67, the Joneses have decided they cannot retire. They don't have enough money for retirement, so they've got to wait another 3 years to retire. Their children, 20 years after they've graduated from school, are finally paying off their student loans. Again, 21 years on average to pay off student loans. Their stress level in their lives is very high. Their health is deteriorating as a result of the high stress over these many decades. Their future outlook doesn't look bright. They cannot afford to travel still. And the long-term plan is if anything goes wrong with their finances, they're going to move in with their kids. Their kids are going to support them, which creates a financial burden on that next generation in that family. It creates a lot of stress and tension within the family. Smiths, on the other hand, they retired a year early. They retired 3 years ago. Their children are also very happy because instead of paying student loans for the next 20 years, they're able to build their income and build their savings. So now their children are well on their way to financial wellness. The stress level as a result within their extended family is no stress. Their health is still going strong. Their outlook, future outlook is very positive. They do the traveling they love to do. And their long-term plan is to live financially independent of their children. And it's because they have a plan in place that they're working every single year. They're going to leave a positive financial legacy for their children and grandchildren. And as a result, there's just a lot of celebration, a lot of things to celebrate in their lives. So the Jonas happiness line, we'll call it. They start out very high. They're ecstatic that they have all this money and can have all these toys, but they have big swings in their happiness. Their happiness starts high. In their late 20s, maybe they got a nice expensive car, but then they lose a job or had a reduction in income and they have to let that car go. So their financial lives come crashing down. And then they find another job and buy a new car and other toys, and it goes up, their happiness goes up again. Then a recession hits and they got to start all over again, and they're swung down. They weren't financially prepared. They didn't have an emergency fund, so they lose it all again. They dig themselves out, they claw their way out of that financial hole, and it's up and down constantly. And as a result, they start worrying about their financial future, and they don't really change their habits. So by the time they get towards retirement, it's too late to really fix things. It's just a downward trend from there. And by their early 60s, they realize they need to work, 70s and even beyond. So as you can see, these big swings, they're dependent on outside events to control their happiness. And they definitely have, there's a lot of lessons to be learned here from living this type of lifestyle. It seems exciting and happy at first, but it comes down and degrades very quickly. Comparing the Smiths, on the other hand, their happiness line looks quite different. So it stays high, it starts high and stays relatively high throughout their life. Now at the beginning, it goes down a bit because they're young and they're tempted to keep up with the Joneses. There's a reason why we use that name in this, so apologize if your name happens to be Jones, but it's not meant to pick on anybody here. Just using this for illustrative examples. They see these Joneses driving new cars and having lots of toys, but they also feel comfortable with this plan that they have. So they stay happy and financially strong. They don't have the huge upswings that the Joneses have had, but they don't have the huge downfalls either, because they've saved away and put money away for a rainy day. And when that rainy day comes, they're able to weather that and they're okay. so they don't stress out on things like a job loss or outliving their money in retirement, because all their preparations have given them that certainty that they'll be okay today and they'll be okay down the road. They've achieved financial wellness. So self-reflection question here is, are you on track to be where the Joneses end up in retirement, or are you on track to be where the Smiths are in retirement, living doing the things you want to do and having enough money to be able to carry you through as long as your retirement lasts? Which one are you on track for? If you're like most people or the average person, you're on track to be where the Joneses are at. Regardless of where you're at today or where you think you're headed, we can definitely get you headed in an even better direction. But something has to change. If you want different results than you currently have, your future depends on what you do today. So work with us, stay with us, come back for the next lesson, and get started today. Now, where do you get started? What do you do to get started so you can put yourself on a better financial future? So in the next lesson, we're going to actually really giving you some ideas to start changing your financial habits, some strategies. We're going to teach you how to budget without budgeting. And that'll make more sense next week when we talk about that. But there's a lot of things that are terrible about budgeting. A lot of people have tried and they failed. We're not going to go back to the old way of doing things. There's new and better ways to do this. Commit yourself to doing the entire boot camp. Again, you only have 12 hours. In fact, by now you only have about 11 hours. You spent 20 years in school learning how to make money. Spend the next 11 hours with us over the next 11 lessons, and we're going to give you almost everything you need to know about money to be able to manage it well and live a good financial life. So tonight we know we're going to be able to help you solve a lot of your financial problems, but this may create new problems for you. But we think that these would be good problems to have a wallet with so much money in it that it won't fit in the pocket of your jeans, or a purse that's so full of money that it'll be too heavy to carry around. So we're hopeful that after this course, by the end of this course, that those will be the money problems you have. And look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. And until then, we're looking forward to hearing your success.